It's Evan Kirstel. We have a very special discussion and live stream today around a topic that is near and dear to my heart, cybersecurity in the home. Um, I speak with tech leaders every day, and one of the top 2 or 3 issues we see is security, trust, and privacy and data protection. And that is no different for me personally. I'm here at home. My smart home that I'm just building here as we recently moved house is kind of a nightmare in terms of getting all the various piece parts to talk to one another, to connect in a secure fashion, to interoperate, whether it's, the lighting system, the thermostat, locks, smart cameras. And not only do I need them to work together, I need them to work together in a secure fashion. Luckily, some of the smartest minds in the industry and in security have come together to create a new set of standards called Matter. Matter is a industry-led effort to bring together, frankly, competing vendors across the smart home and IoT space to achieve a secure, reliable, and seamless use of smart devices. What a dream that would be. Matter is actually an industry-led effort from someone called the Connectivity Standards Alliance, bringing together the world's leading manufacturers, literally who's who in the industry, to achieve this seamless integration goal. And there's one company in particular I'm excited to chat with today, DigiCert. They secure 28 billion transactions a day. They're the leader when it comes to digital trust, and they're very heavily involved in driving and participating in the security layer within Matter. 250 companies, in addition to DigiCert, are participating, and super excited to chat. Let's watch a quick video before we dive into our discussion about, this idea of digital trust for the real world.
What makes something real? In the real world, there's no stark division between digital and physical. Connection is assumed, and what happens online can affect us just as directly as anything we experience in person. That's why in the real world, trust has never been a buzzword or an intellectual exercise. We know it on sight, value it instinctively, and dread its absence. Because trust is what makes the human experience work, the glue that binds society together. It opens doors, builds bridges, crosses borders, shares ideas, and sets standards. Trust makes more possible. And digital trust? It scales those possibilities, links the virtual and physical into a single, seamless experience, securing e-commerce, supply chains, communications, banks, emails, websites, documents, software, the car you drove to work, and the factory that built it. Which is why DigiCert built a unified platform that integrates into existing ecosystems to ensure devices, people, sites, and organizations work more securely. Together, delivering trust you can see and feel and touch. That's digital trust for the real world.
That's kind of an amazing video when you consider that, my modus operandi over, the last 15 years is to trust no one and nothing when it comes to the internet. But that might be changing. I'm really thrilled to have Mike Nelson, VP of IoT Cybersecurity at DigiCert, join me to unpack what's really going on with Matter and IoT security in the home. Mike is an IoT security advocate, evangelist around PKI topics, and a fly fisherman, which we're going to talk about as well. Mike, how are you?
I'm so good, Evan. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining me. So before we jump into DigiCert and the industry landscape, tell me a little bit about your background over the years.
Yeah, so I'm currently the Vice President of IoT Security at DigiCert. I've been with the company for about 8 years in the IoT connected device space the whole time. DigiCert is a leader in that space. Before coming to DigiCert, my career was in healthcare IT. Actually, I worked for GE Healthcare for a number of years, helping build products and software systems, where I began to realize the challenge of security and the looming problem as everything in our lives became more connected. I started my career, though, curiously, interesting, in the government, from a policy standpoint at the Department of Health and Human Services, creating standards that encourage the adoption of technology to improve the quality of care. And so I've been on kind of the regulatory side, the product development side, and now really excited to be with DigiCert, a leader in digital trust.
That's amazing. And I'd love to have another discussion with you around healthcare security. I couldn't think of a topic
Yeah.
more relevant now. But back to the IoT and smart home world. Tell us about DigiCert and your core mission as it relates to IoT, smart home, Matter, and other security topics.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone here today knows that the world is becoming more connected. Everything in our lives, we're going to be talking about smart home today and a new standard that is emerging in that space. But in healthcare, in transportation, the cars we drive are connected. I wear 2 medical devices. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I wear 2 connected medical devices on me at all times that have the ability to be compromised if they're not secure. Everything is becoming connected, and DigiCert's mission is around digital trust and ensuring that as we connect businesses, people, that as we engage online, we can do so in a way that establishes confidence that those connections can be trusted. And that's when we refer to digital trust, that's what that is. It's making sure that as we engage and as our connected lives continue to grow, we can do that in a secure and trusted way.
That's fantastic. And tell us about this organization, the Connectivity Standards Alliance. That was a new one to me. Another CSA, another 3-letter acronym for our industry. So what is the CSA? How is DigiCert involved? And then let's talk about Matter and how it's
funny. Yeah, so the CSA is actually a new term for the organization. It was previously known as the Zigbee Alliance, and a lot of us are familiar with the good work that Zigbee has done in the past. They are now known as the Connectivity Standard Alliance. And the formation of Matter happened a handful of years ago at a tech conference when some of the tech giants, Apple, Amazon, Google, Samsung, and a handful of others were talking about some of the challenges that were emerging in the smart home space. The challenges were around a lack of interoperability. They had a lot of consumers that were saying, hey, I bring this smart home device on in a home and it won't integrate with my controller, my Amazon Alexa or Google Home, whatever they're using. There was a dramatic lack of interoperability. Because of that, they said we need to come together and create a framework that allows any smart home device to connect and have interoperability, but also have a common layer of security to ensure that those connections can be trusted and secure. And so that was kind of the launch, and it was several years ago where that happened. They knew that they needed a governing body to do that. Connectivity Standard Alliance, at the time Zigbee, was a great body. They're great in the standard development and organizing processes around an effort like that, and they've done a great job. It's taken some time, but I'm encouraged by what we're seeing and the outcome that we're going to see in the near future.
Amazing. And the breadth and depth of companies involved in Matter is pretty extraordinary. Who are a few that come to mind? Maybe you should give a few shout outs.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're in the smart home space and you're not part of Project Matter, you're behind.
Another way to put it, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're now over. You mentioned 250. I think the list just topped 300. I think it's growing rapidly. Everybody's getting in line, which is, there's so many good things that we can talk about with Project Matter, but one of them is just how neat it's been to see an industry actually come together to say, hey, we have a problem that we need to solve. And if you don't jump on this bandwagon, you're going to be left out. And it's probably going to be a death sentence for your company, because Matter is going to become the new standard. It's going to become as commonplace when we talk about Bluetooth or other communication protocols. Matter is going to become that well known. Consumers will identify the brand. Businesses will need to comply with the standard in order to maintain product viability.
I would agree. I mean, it's as big a sea change as when we, got TCP/IP and layer 2 or 3
Totally.
standards and GSM, 3GPP. I mean, that's there's a lot of buzzwords, but standards are great when they're adopted and agreed upon. And what does that mean for consumers? What kind of devices can I go to Best Buy and
Yeah.
and bring home that will have the Matter seal of approval?
Yeah, so you mentioned in the intro that you're working on standing up a smart home. So you've probably experienced the pain that Matter is looking to
Oh, it's nice.
address,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I went to Best Buy a couple weeks ago. I was looking to buy a TV, and at the bottom of every TV, it's funny. There are labels that are like, "This works with Amazon, Google Home, but it's not compatible with A, B, C, and D," right? There's a ton of labeling that's going on because certain systems work with devices and some don't. And that's the problem that Matter's trying to solve. When you see the Matter logo, when consumers see that logo, you can know that that device will be interoperable and will work with other Matter compliant devices. And that's a great benefit for consumers to have. That logo represents interoperability, and it also represents trust, that consumers can know it'll work. You'll have an easier consumer experience getting it onboarded, getting it working, but you can also know that it is using the Matter security framework, which raises the bar for security and ensures secure connections, that data is being protected. And I know we're going to jump into that a little bit more, but it's really it's a label of trust and interoperability.
I love that. And let's dive into the security side of things. That's really what we're here for as geeks. Um, how does it kind of raise the bar? Because, there's a lot of security protocols and suites and tools in place today from disparate vendors, but how is Matter better and different?
Yeah, so one thing is it's requiring that good security be in place. It's not an optional part of the standard. You
So no
have
more
to
1, 2, 3,
comply.
4, 5, 6 passwords. You mean we have to?
Yeah, yeah. If you're doing that, please change those. So it requires a better security approach. And this slide here that is up is a handful of the security approaches that Matter is adopting that is going to raise the bar. Everything from secure, flexible device commissioning and establishing immutable identities with devices that follow the device through the life cycle. Validating that each device is authentic and it's coming from a trusted manufacturer, and public key infrastructure, a solution that DigiCert is a leader in, is part of the way they do that. Another unique aspect is using a distributed compliance ledger to make information about devices, to be able to attest the compliance of a device. They're doing that through the distributed ledger, which is a really exciting innovation, and I believe is going to work very well. Secure communication. IoT devices are all about aggregating data and using it to improve our lives. That data needs to be protected. Some of that data is confidential. Matter ensures the protection of data and secure communications. And then it also has approaches to ensure that only appropriate devices are operating in those environments. Access controls is preventing unauthorized access, and they have a lot of mechanisms and things that they're doing to do that. I love number 7, secure device updates. Security is an ever-evolving challenge for organizations, and it needs to continually get better. And so I love the fact that they're requiring that devices need to have the ability to be updated so that you can rotate credentials, you can improve the security capabilities of devices. And I think that that's going to really be a really important component. And then finally, using things like code signing to validate and verify that software is secure and that it can be trusted, that malware has not been embedded on it. These are kind of the foundational components. And what you see through a lot of this are public key infrastructure. When you're talking about authentication, when you're talking about encryption and protection of confidential data, when you're talking about establishing identity, validating connections, signing code, that's the magic of public key infrastructure, and that's where DigiCert has gotten involved.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, this is no small task for manufacturers. It's
Right.
not really their core competence, I don't think. And so, you know, how does DigiCert help your device manufacturer customers comply and meet these ever, you know, evolving set of standards, right? Because this isn't a
Yeah.
one-off. It's going to be a whole evolution slash revolution.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we do, I say it all the time, is we help manufacturers achieve compliance in a more accelerated fashion. We remove the burden of PKI. PKI can be hard to manage. It can be expensive to set up and manage. The audits and all the things that you need to do to establish and maintain trust are important. But the Matter standard really requires manufacturers to have three components, and I'll just review these quickly. The first is a trusted root, which they call product attestation authorities, or PAAs. Every manufacturer needs to have a relationship with a trusted root. The Connectivity Standard Alliance will be operating a trusted root store. The operators of those routes are required to meet, requirements to ensure trust and maintain trust throughout the ecosystem. And DigiCert will be the first third-party CA to have an approved root CA with the connectivity standards. We're excited about that. The second thing that they need is a product attestation intermediate, or those of you who are in the PKI space, this would also be an ICA or an issuing CA. But within this ecosystem, we call them product attestation intermediates. Every manufacturer will need to have a PAI. And what this does is it identifies them as a trusted participant. It means that they're a member of the standard. It means that they have demonstrated compliance with the standard and that they now have the ability to issue certificates. And so this establishes trust at the manufacturer or the vendor level. From those PAIs, device attestation certificates will be issued, and every Matter compliant device will have a device attestation certificate on it. And that device attestation certificate is used to authenticate connections, properly identify the manufacturer so rogue manufacturers can't come in and create knockoff devices, and it helps to maintain trust. But every device attestation certificate or every device will have one of those. And so the volume of those is going to be big. And so management, we have vendors that are going to do hundreds of millions of devices. And how do you manage that in a way that's scalable? And that's where DigiCert comes in. We help you establish a root, get an ICA, and then have device attestation certificates that you can manage and scale and deploy in a variety of different ways.
Wow, what an amazing value.
Mouthful,
that is a mouthful, but really, really helpful to the audience. Get a lot of CIOs and CISOs and security folks watching who will be really interested in this topic. But putting my consumer hat back on, when can I go back to my Best Buy? And I don't know, Best Buy isn't sponsoring this, but hopefully they're going to see a boost in business because it's really something that's urgently needed. When can I see some Matter compliant products? The Matter logo seen out there on the shelves, and how do we get there?
It's a good question. We believe that we will see Matter compliant devices before the end of the year. I believe that there are a lot of manufacturers that are planning to update existing devices that are in consumers' homes. So if you're a consumer, you may get a notification that your device is now compliant with Matter. It won't have the brand on the on the device, but it will notify you that it's compliant. But I believe that in the very near future, I hope this year, Evan, that we'll begin seeing those on the shelf.
So we're seeing a brave, new, exciting future here, but let's take a step back. And the reality is something else today. The current state. Well, let's ask you, how would you characterize the current state of IoT security and connected device security out there? I won't, color it with my opinion.
I would love to hear your opinion on that.
I think it's terrible, but yeah.
I think it's improving.
Improve
I
it.
think that there are several pillars of responsibility for IoT security that I talk about. The government has a role in terms of regulation, and if there's massive insecurity with critical infrastructure, you need regulators to come in and mandate and do the right thing. We're beginning to see strong regulation across the globe. The EU just passed the Cyber Resilience Act. That is really it's the first legislation that we're seeing that actually has consequences for insecurity, financial consequences. And so we're starting to see good things from a regulatory standpoint. The second one is industry. If industries recognize that they are insecure, they need to do something. And Matter is doing that. And we're beginning to see more and more industries act to begin addressing the problems of insecurity. The final one is manufacturers. Manufacturers should be doing the right thing to protect their devices so that consumers can trust them. And on all three of those fronts, I think we're seeing improvement. And so we're not where we need to be yet. I agree with you. There's a lot of variation between manufacturers, and we need to get to a point where security is more in the DNA of how we build and deploy devices.
Love it. Love it. Security in the DNA. Well, let's talk about collaboration. This is an exciting new model for industry collaboration. You mentioned regulatory environments in the EU. So, what's your take on the difference between what's happening here with Matter and industry collaboration initiatives, and the regulatory regimes? Is it really either or? Can we bring these things together in some fashion?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I believe that when industry comes together, the result is better than when it's heavily regulated. And the reason is because people in the industry understand the industry better than regulators. They know the problems, they know the environments in which devices are operating, the connectivity challenges, all those things. Now, regulation, I think, can be effective at the right level to encourage things. A lot of the regulation that we see, Evan, is, you need to be signing, you need to have code integrity, you need to have secure communication. It stays at a higher level and it doesn't get as prescriptive in how to do it. So I think that type of regulation is good. I think that the challenge with regulation is if they try to extend too far into the mechanics of it, sometimes that can introduce challenges.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk big picture as well. I mean, beyond this Christmas sales season for the smart home and the first devices Matter compliant, what's the big picture potential for Matter? I mean, are we looking at enterprise or healthcare or wearables? What do you think
Man,
is?
you're visionary. You're right. I agree with you. I actually think that Matter, it's starting in the smart home, and I think it will become, and it already is being adopted by most, if not all, manufacturers in that industry. I believe it will become a standard that will become common in other industries as well. They are already working on smart commercial. I know they're thinking about healthcare, but the application of Matter does not just need to be for smart home devices. It's a standard and a way to connect devices in a secure way that can be applicable in any industry that's connecting and onboarding lots of connected devices from lots of different manufacturers.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that would truly be a dream. Now, we do this for mainly educational purposes, not just marketing. And I love your approach on, educating the industry around what's happening. I think you have a webinar coming up, I understand. Tell us about that, and I can put up a brief intro to the webinar and what that is all about.
Yeah, we're excited. There's a lot of energy and excitement about Matter right now. A lot of companies are actually looking for more information on how to achieve compliance, especially in the device attestation space, because it's complicated, it's tricky. And so we're hosting a discussion on October 4th. You see the details here and where you can register with a handful of our customers who are adopting device attestation using DigiCert. We're going to talk to them about the challenges that they've encountered, some of the complexities that manufacturers need to be aware of. We're going to talk about best practices, things that they're doing that are making it easier, and also why Matter is important to them and why it's becoming part of the way they build and deploy products. And so we're also going to we'll have a couple manufacturers on with us, and we're also having the management authority from the CSA. The company is known as Ianti, who was selected to be the management authority to ensure trust and approve all the routes and stuff like that. They'll be joining us as well to share some insights. So it'll be a really good discussion. We hope people will join. It's going to be educational, informational. We'll have some fun on it.
That sounds great. And what about beyond that? Where can folks go beyond just Google searches to find out more information about both DigiCert and the Matter initiative itself?
Yeah, so we have plenty of information on our website, digicert.com/matter. So you can go there. You can learn more about device attestation certificates, the way you establish trust, the way Matter is doing that. The Connectivity Standard Alliance website is also a great resource for people.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a really informative discussion, not just for the audience, but for me personally. When you're involved in something so new and innovative and interesting, it must take a lot of your time. So how do you detox and switch off and escape from the day-to-day rat race? What do you do for fun?
Oh, geez. Well, I love the outdoors. I live just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah, and so mountains are it's not an ugly place to live, I'll tell you that. And I love the mountains, and so I spend a lot of time up in the mountains with my 2 daughters. I mountain bike a lot, and I spend a lot of time fly fishing, and they're all great things that kind of fill me up and keep me energized.
Oh, that is beautiful. I'm a fisherman, although I don't actually. You actually have to catch fish to be called a fisherman.
Well, my daughters don't think so, because we usually don't catch fish when I go out with them. But my grandpa would always say to me, fishing is much more. It's much more than just the fish that you catch. It's the environment, it's the beauty, it's the sound of the river, all this stuff, and I just love all that stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Well, we'll tweet some pictures out of some of your exploits. Fly fishing. But thanks so much for joining us. It was really informative, really interesting. I can't wait to get my first Matter devices in my new home. So look forward to all the progress.
Thank you. It's great to be with you today.